Welcome back to another conference tournament prediction video, and today we are doing the Big 12, and this is always a special video for me because last year's video is still my most viewed video on my channel because I had a 5 and a 7 seed in the conference championship game. Everyone was going crazy about that. So this conference and this video alone just has a special place in my heart. And this conference is obviously, a really strong one. They have 6 of the top 11 teams in Torvik. Everyone who's saying the Big 12 has a down year. Maybe they don't have as many, top tier teams, contenders, but they're still likely going to get 8 tournament teams in, and I think this conference tournament is shaping up to be one for the ages. I mean, just look at this thing, 16 teams, absolutely ridiculous. Real quick before we get into our predictions, make sure you go down there, hit that subscribe button if you are new. Check out our previous conference tournament prediction videos. Once you're done with this one, we got loads out. We just did the ACC. That's a great vid. And obviously all the other mid-majors have pretty much already been posted. So yeah, stay tuned. By the way, this week we're going to continue to get all of them out, and by the end of the week we'll have all 31 out. So yeah, very good time to be a part of the channel. Make sure you get on there, subscribe. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the predictions because that is why you are all here. So starting off in the 9-16 game, TCU versus Colorado. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like either of these teams. I think TCU is one of the worst teams in this conference, even as a 9 seed. That may be surprising, but it's definitely a down year for them. I feel like, they're usually a pretty solid team, 6, 7, 8 seed, kind of 9 seed maybe in the tournament. But this year, I don't know. They have a solid defense, top 30 defense actually in the country, but their offense definitely struggles at times. It gets a little stale. I do like them over Colorado. Colorado's the lowest ranked team in Torvik in this conference, and just really nothing going for them. They had a really good season last year, and I was really high on them last year. But both these teams definitely a down year this season. But I think TCU is overall better. In the 12-13, Oklahoma State versus Cincinnati, and it's still crazy to me. Cincinnati was getting so much hype coming into the season just because they brought a lot of people back, even though they were like the 11 seed in the Big 12 tournament last year. At one point they were like in the top 15 of the AP poll. It's crazy to think about it. Now they're sitting as the 13 seed in their conference. They're still pretty highly ranked in Torvik, though. They're the 9th highest team. You could argue they're still a bubble team. I would probably say they need to win this conference to get in, but maybe there's a chance if they get to the championship game. They could get in. You could argue they may need less than that, but I mean the bubble is very weak, but I feel like I haven't seen them in like even the next 4 out conversation, but they're probably in close to that. So we'll see with Cincinnati. I do think they win over Oklahoma State, though. Oklahoma State's the lowest ranked team in KenPom in this conference, and Cincinnati does have a top 25 defense. They do some things well. They're not a bad team whatsoever. They have a good turnover margin. I like Cincinnati in this one. Kansas State taking on Arizona State. Now, Arizona State did just beat them a couple weeks back, and they split in the regular season, but the game Kansas State won was only by 1 point. Kansas State, what a disappointing season, man. I mean, to finish 15-16 with all the NIL money they spent, bringing in Coleman Hawkins, Doug McDaniel. I mean, they did so many things, and it just didn't click. Something about it. They did have a stretch where they went on an absolute tear, beating Iowa State, Kansas, and Arizona in a 4-game stretch. Also beating West Virginia. I mean, there was a point like mid-January where they were on a 6-game win streak, and everyone thought, is Kansas State actually going to come back and do this? But then immediately after, they lost four in a row, and they lost 5 of their last 7 to close the season. On the other side, Arizona State with Coach Bobby Hurley may be coaching for his job right now. I'm not sure. It sounds like they're going to be moving on from him. I do think Kansas State is better. I think they win. I just think they have too much talent to lose in the first round here. And then Utah, the 11 seed in their first season in the Big 12 for basketball, taking on UCF. I don't know. I think these two teams really aren't all that crazy. I like Utah, though. I think they're just overall the more complete team. They're a top 75 team in both offense and defense. UCF isn't too far behind, but defensively, outside of the top 100, I do like their pace they play at. They play at a pretty fast pace, and they have a top 60 offense. But besides that, I don't know. I don't really see much in UCF. to get excited about. I think Utah is more complete. Then in the 8-9, West Virginia versus TCU. Um, West Virginia is kind of a bubble team. I've seen them in more than out. I think they will get in. With a loss here, it might get a little sketchy. I think they get the win just to ensure. I think if they win that game, they should be fine and should be in. West Virginia's been ranked at portions in the season, and they're a solid team. They're 33rd in Torvik. They have a top 10 defense in the country. Their offense struggles at times, but they can actually shoot pretty decent. But they play at a slow pace. I think they should be fine against TCU. We talked about this. Actually, did we talk about this? I think we did. TCU is a good defensive team. They also like to play at a slow pace, so you could argue TCU could stay in it. But I think West Virginia is just overall the better team. They have a much better offense, and defensively they're much better as well. I just think they're more complete as a team. Darren DeVries has been done an amazing job in his first season in the Big 12 as the Mountaineers coach. Iowa State versus Cincinnati. Do I think Cincinnati can continue this little run? It's not really a run. It's only one. They've only won one game so far. I do not. I think Iowa State. They're getting healthy at the right time. They have been injured for the past month. They finally have their whole team back. I know everyone's off of Iowa State, but let me remind you. I mean, there was a 2-month stretch where they were ranked third in the country. I know they're not as high. They're ranked 12th right now in the AP poll, and that doesn't mean a whole lot at this point in the season. You look at their schedule. They have lost 3 of their last 5, but granted, again, they were very injured, and 2 of those games, one was at Houston, the number 1 seed in this conference, and looking like a number 1 seed in the tournament, in on Selection Sunday when that does get revealed. And another one of those losses was a 3-point loss to BYU, who is one of the hottest teams in the country. So, I don't know. I mean, I still think Iowa State's a really good team. Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones, Taman Lipsy. They have a lot of guys. Jefferson. This is just a complete team, and I really like TJ Otzelberger, so I think he gets through Cincinnati. Baylor, Kansas State. This one definitely made me think a little bit in the 7-10. I think this one is probably the closest of this round. What is this? I don't even know what you would call this. It's not the quarterfinals. I don't even know what you would call this round. Baylor, Kansas State. Interesting. Both these teams very talented. Baylor has got a lot of guys. Norchad O'Meara, VJ Edgecombe. I'm not a huge fan of Baylor. I actually like Kansas State in this matchup. I just think, we see a little bit of that magic they had when they went on that run. I could see Kansas State. If any team is going to be a bid stealer in this league, it'll be Kansas State just because of the potential they had. And with Baylor, they've just been so iffy recently, so inconsistent. I mean, they've lost 4 of their last 6. They've lost 6 of their last 10. Yes, they're talented, but so is Kansas State. I don't really know. I'm not too high on Baylor. They have a top 20 offense, sure. I mean, it's not a bad team whatsoever. I'm not trying to hate on Baylor. But Kansas State, I think, has the defense to match that. And I think they can hit some big shots and pull off this little upset here. I'm sure people aren't going to like that, but it's my pick. And then Kansas versus Utah. I think Utah's solid. I think they're a well-rounded team. But Kansas is still top 20 in Torvik. They're still a really highly regarded team, even though the fact that they have been kind of fading as of recently. I do think Kansas will get through Utah, though. I'm not too worried about this one. Yes, they're inconsistent, but I think they beat Utah here. I think they've been playing better as of recently, too, at least in the past week and a half-ish. Back up to the top, though, starting off the quarterfinals. Houston versus West Virginia. This would be a huge win for West Virginia if they can get it. I think this would secure their spot in the tournament if they do get this win. I don't see it, though. I think Houston is just too much for this West Virginia team. I mean, Houston has been so good this season. They've only lost 1 game in conference play, and it was by 1 point in overtime, I believe, to Texas Tech, who is the 2 seed. I believe it was by 1 point. If not, it was a very close game. 1 point, and I'm pretty sure it was overtime, but they lost by 1 point. You get what I'm saying. Texas Tech, the 2 seed. I wouldn't worry about Houston losing this one. They're just too much. They're not going to lose first round. I think Kelvin Sampson is too good for that. I think this team just overall, LJ Crier's been amazing. Milos Uzan, believe that's how you say his name. Juwan Roberts. This is just a really good team. I don't think they lose first game. Um, then now this one is one of the toughest games to predict in this conference tournament. I'll tell you why. First of all, BYU is like the hottest team in America right now. They have been on an absolute tear. They're 23-8, by the way. BYU has been went from a not even a tournament team like a month and a half ago to winning, what is it, 8 games in a row, 9 games in a row, to now being like in regards like in 6 seed conversations. They have skyrocketed. Richie Saunders is a name to know. He's 16 points a game. He's been playing amazing as of recently. And in this little 8-game win streak, they beat Kansas, they beat Arizona, they won at Iowa State, they beat West Virginia, and they've just been handling a lot of decent, other teams in this conference. BYU has been ridiculous as of recently. And in Torvik, they have just rapidly increased. They're all the way up at like 10th in the country. They have a top 10 offense. They shoot the three incredibly well. This BYU team reminds me a lot of last year's team, and I actually picked BYU as the 5 seed last year to win this conference. They didn't end up doing so, but I was very high on them, and I picked them to make a run again in March Madness. Maybe I'm scarred from that because they didn't come through for me in the Big 12 tournament. They lost in the first round in March Madness. Maybe I'm just scarred for that, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm taking Iowa State. They just recently played, and BYU won by 3 points. Granted, it was on the road. I know that Iowa State was injured, so that's kind of a part of it. I just think with Iowa State getting healthy, the fact they played so recently, I can't see I could see BYU winning again just because of how good they're playing. But Iowa State still has a top 5 defense. You look at it this way. BYU's offense compared to Iowa State's defense, Iowa State is 5th, BYU's offense is 10th. The other way around, Iowa State ranks 31st in offense compared to BYU's 46th. Now, I know that's 46 defense. Now, I know that's not the whole story, but Iowa State is still a really, really strong team. And they're a good top 5 defense in the country, and it's not like they played a slow pace. They played a faster pace than BYU. I don't know. I like this team that they're getting healthy at the right time. I think they have so many good players, and I feel like people are forgetting about Iowa State. I think they're a bit underseeded as well in the conference standings. I like Iowa State to get it done. Texas Tech versus Kansas State. Can Kansas State be a bid stealer? Ultimately, I think Texas Tech is too much. Texas Tech's ranked 7th in Torvik right now. They're top 25 in both offense and defense. They're top 10 in offense. Really, the only negative about them is they play kind of at a slow pace and they don't get to the free throw line a lot. But they're a really good three-point shooting team led by JT Toppin. I think Texas Tech will be just fine against Kansas State. I think they get through pretty easily, actually. I really like Texas Tech. And then in the 3-6, Arizona versus Kansas. These two teams also just played, and Kansas did just win. I feel like kind of the same thing with Iowa State. People are forgetting Kansas was ranked number 1 in the preseason. They have all the guys in the world. And yes, Kansas went through a stretch pretty recently where they lost to Kansas State, Utah, and then BYU beat them by like 35. That was a little 4-game stretch where they were struggling. And, you look at ESPN, they have lost 2 of their last 3, but you look a little closer. One loss was by 5 to a Texas Tech team who has been playing amazing, and the other one is a 6-point loss at Houston. Keep in mind, they played Houston very close in both games that they played them. They lost by 6 in both. And then they just beat Arizona. I feel like Kansas can beat Arizona again. I just feel like matchup-wise, I watched that game. Kansas was in control. I know Arizona's ranked ahead of them in Torvik, but I like Kansas's defense, and I feel like if Hunter Dickinson shows up, now that's a big if, because their offense is so inconsistent, but when they are clicking, they are really, really strong. I don't know. I like Kansas to pull off a little upset here, and just Bill Self is a really good coach, and I know Tommy Lloyd is as well, and Arizona has a great team, and Caleb Love is phenomenal, obviously. But man, if Kansas's top players on offense have a good day, it's really hard to beat them. Just because I mean their defense is consistently good. It's just the offense that worries me. I think they can beat Arizona though. I mean, watching that game, they just looked like they had the matchup advantage. So I like them to the semis. That sets up a Houston Iowa State finals rematch. This was the finals last year in the conference tournament, and Iowa State won by like 30. They just dominated them. TJ Otzelberger is trying to repeat as the Big 12 champ. And get this, this is going to upset some people. I really like Iowa State to get going in this tournament and find their stride. I mean, they haven't been healthy in so long. They're all coming back now. I feel like I mean, people are forgetting. When this team was healthy, they've only lost 2 games this season when they've had their complete team, and one of those was by 2 points to Auburn. I mean, this team is really good. I feel like people are forgetting that. I like Iowa State to pull the upset versus Houston. I really do. They played them very close without 2 of their best players. I don't know, man. And Iowa State could very easily lose to BYU. They could very easily lose this game as well. I know this is a bold prediction. It's the 5 seed, but I don't know. I just like this Iowa State team. I like their defense. I think they have a lot of playmakers offensively. And you could say the same thing about Houston, but I don't know, man. That 3-point shooting, I know they shoot at a very high percent, but they don't shoot it very often. I mean, their 3-point rate is outside of the top 300s. I know their percentage is very good as a team. They're shooting like 39% as a team, and they have the best defense. But Iowa State's defense is very good as well. If you look at Torvik, it will say Houston, but that's just because Houston's the second-ranked team in the country and just the phenomenal analytics all around. But I like Iowa State to pull the upset. I really do. I think TJ Otzelberger just knows what he's doing. He's a really good coach. Same with Kelvin Sampson. I mean, Houston could definitely go out and win. I like Iowa State to beat them again, though, in the Big 12 tournament. And then on the bottom half, Texas Tech versus Kansas. I was showing some love to Kansas, but I just can't take them to the conference championship game. I think they're just a little too inconsistent for my liking. I like them to make a bit of a run, maybe farther than some would expect. But I think Texas Tech just went into Kansas and beat them. I think Texas Tech is playing amazing right now. JT Toppin is a name to know. That guy is crazy good. They have a top 10 offense and a top 25 defense. They're just so well-rounded. They shoot threes a lot, and they shoot 38% as a team. This is just a great team. I'm really liking this Texas Tech heading into the tournament. This Texas Tech team heading into the tournament. I'm going with them. And then against Iowa State, this is the 7th-ranked Torvik team versus the 8th-ranked Torvik team. Texas Tech 24-7 on the year compared to Iowa State at 23-8. Both these teams are phenomenal. I really do believe Texas Tech is the better team. I think they're the more complete, well-rounded team. This offense is great, about 22 spots ahead of Iowa State's offense, and their defense is about 19 spots below. So, again, very even. You can see that just off of the numbers. But, man, the 3-point shooting for this team, the fact that they shoot a lot and they make a lot, I think that's really strong. They have a whole lot of guys. I mean, this is a deep, experienced team. Texas Tech, I think, has been playing very good as of recently. They've won 4 of their last 5, and the only loss was to Houston in a close game. They're the only team to have beaten Houston in conference play this season. I don't know, man. I'm really liking this Texas Tech team. I know they have a weird loss to St. Joseph's earlier in the season, and they've taken some tough losses. They lost to Iowa State earlier, the one time they played them this season. 85-84, I think they get their revenge this time around. I think Texas Tech is going to win the Big 12, and I've seen a lot of people picking Texas Tech, so maybe I'm not the only one who loves Texas Tech. I just really like this team, man. Coming into March, this is one of my favorite teams. But that is going to do it for the Big 12 Conference Tournament predictions. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you get on there, leave a like, check out our previous Conference Tournament vids, and make sure you stay tuned for conference tournaments vids coming out in the next couple days. In a few days, we'll have all 31 conference tournament videos out, so very exciting time. Subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. All that good stuff. With that being said, though, thank you so much for watching.